All right, welcome everybody to the Gettysburg battlefield, or at least the Gettysburg campaign sort of battlefield. This is Gettysburg 157. I'm Garry Adelman. You're with the American Battlefield Trust. Make sure you share this and the other videos with your friends so that they can participate in this commemoration, this 157th commemoration of the Battle of Gettysburg. And we're starting it appropriately about 4 miles west of Gettysburg. I'm right near Knoxland Road on Route 30 at the Ephraim Whistler House, and this is where some people believe, almost everybody believes, the first shot of the Battle of Gettysburg was fired. But first, let's back up a little bit. Of course, in June of 1863, having seized the initiative at the Battle of Chancellorsville, Robert E. Lee decides on his second invasion of the North. He moves north with surprising speed on the west side of the Appalachian Mountains. He moves down through the Shenandoah Valley, and then turns, spreads out all over this part of Pennsylvania, all the way to York, Pennsylvania, or beyond that, almost to Harrisburg, and behind me to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, over in that direction. And of course, George Gordon Meade, having replaced Joe Hooker, who was performing pretty admirably at the time, as a matter of fact, during the sort of move up toward Pennsylvania. George Gordon Meade takes command 3 days before the battle and begins to move his men up in this direction. Lee hears that Meade is coming, and he decides to concentrate his men from the York, Harrisburg, and Chambersburg areas, and that is going to bring the soldiers to this general vicinity where the roads, not shoes, but the roads will bring soldiers to the Gettysburg area. And we're along the Chambersburg Pike, one of the 10 roads that led into Gettysburg at the time. And I'm going to turn this over to my friend and colleague Dan Davis, who's going to talk about the first shot, cavalry, and kick off the battle. Dan?
Thank you, Garry, and good morning, everybody. On the morning of June 30th, 1863, Brigadier General John Buford's cavalry division rides into Gettysburg, coming up from the south. Buford that morning had just encountered Confederate infantry. In fact, a little ways to the west, the southwest of Gettysburg. He's reported to the wing commander John Reynolds, and he's moved on into Gettysburg. And one of the things that Buford notices as he's riding into the town is just the absolutely wonderful high ground south of town. We know him today as the Round Tops, Big Round Top, Little Round Top, Cemetery Ridge, and he recognizes the value of the terrain not only below Gettysburg, but the terrain north and west of the town, the successive ridges here at Whistler's Ridge, moving back toward McPherson's Ridge, Seminary Ridge, and he decides that he has to hold Gettysburg. The terrain is critical for any potential future Union success here on the field, and he's going to utilize the terrain west of town to build his defense. Now, for many years, and we can start walking on over to the first shot marker, for many years, Buford's defense here at Gettysburg was considered to be a defense in depth. In fact, it is not. Buford's going to fight a covering force action. He's going to spread his cavalry units dismounted across the ridges north and west of town to slowly delay the Confederate advance on the morning of July the 1st, 157 years ago today. This is what is called a covering force action. Essentially, Buford is trading space for time, delaying the Confederate advance long enough for the main body under John Reynolds to come up and deploy to face the Confederates. The Confederates are from A.P. Hill's 3rd Corps, Henry Heast's division. James J. Archer's brigade is going to be leading Heast's advance early on the morning of July the 1st, moving in from the west, from Chambersburg, toward us where we're standing here on Whistler's Ridge. And we're going to walk over toward the Chambersburg Pike, modern Route 30, and the first shot marker. Out here in this vicinity along Whistler's Ridge are elements of the 8th Illinois Cavalry, Buford's vedettes, his pickets that are guarding the roads and the ridges west of Gettysburg. And as Chris moves over, you can see the marker here. Members of the 8th Illinois Cavalry, roughly about 7 o'clock on the morning of July the 1st, again 157 years ago, are going to peer down the road to the west, and they're going to see a column of dust. And that column of dust is going to be Colonel Burkett Fry's Confederates from James J. Archer's brigade moving east toward Gettysburg. The vedette post in this area is going to send word back to the commander, Lieutenant Marcellus Jones, again of the 8th Illinois Cavalry. Jones has set up his headquarters in Hare's Tavern. The man who's going to bring word back to him that the Confederates are on the advance are actually his cousin, Private Thomas Kelly. Kelly's going to ride up to Jones, and he's going to shout out that Johnnies are coming. Jones is going to throw down a piece of bread he was munching on for breakfast, jump on his horse, ride out here, and he's going to assess the situation. Looks down the road, he sees the Confederates coming. He tells the vedettes to withdraw back to the rear, get their horses, but before he does, he borrows a Sharp's carbine from a nearby sergeant, Levi Schaefer. Now, the Sharps carbine was an excellent weapon, breech-loading weapon, and Jones is going to take essentially a pot shot. It's going to be the first shot fired at during the battle. He's going to shoot at the Confederates roughly about 600 yards behind me. Probably not going to hit anybody. Definitely doesn't hit anybody. And then he himself, like the rest of his men, are going to mount up, and they're going to ride back to the main position, the 8th Illinois. And through the course of the morning, Buford is going to delay Henry Heath's advance as the Confederates push on into Gettysburg, buying time for John Reynolds to come up from the south and deploy to relieve Buford. Gary?
Good, thanks, Dan. And just a couple things before we sign off. First of all, we want to show you the other sides of the monument and a close-up of it. But real quick, I just want to say that, so we can get started, breech-loading guns, which you load at the back, is not the same thing as a repeater. Okay, repeaters when you load them at the back and you can load on Sunday and shoot all week or something like that. You can shoot without reloading constantly. Breech loaders just make it easier to load and faster. So it's a little faster, but not as fast as a repeater. Come on, Chris. That's Chris White behind the camera, off to doing our yeoman's work shooting here. I want to say that this is, erected in 1886. I'm not quite sure if postal codes were around yet for states, but notice how there's not exactly uniform abbreviations of my home state or any state in the Union at that point, except things like New York and North Carolina. Let's move around a little bit. You can see when the monument was actually erected here. A lot of these monuments were just put in somebody's backyard. It's not like this was preserved by the Park Service until very recently. This is Whistler's home, and I think it's been less than 12 years that this house has actually been in the holdings. And here again memorialized is Captain Jones and then Lieutenant, I think it's Ridler, if I'm reading that right, and Sergeant Schaefer here, immortalized sort of on this stone where the first shot was made. And of course right here from the road, before you went 50 miles an hour on this road, first shot. You might actually be able to see this from your carriage in 1886. Y'all, we will be on Facebook for the next couple of days and beyond. And go to our YouTube channel. Help us get to 100,000 subscribers. We're at 99,600 or something like that. Help us crest that 100,000 and help our video guy, Andy Poulton, get that plaque above his desk that YouTube sends you when you do it. Thanks for supporting battlefield preservation, and join us throughout this important Gettysburg commemoration.